Greetings everyone, Professor Prinny here, and today we're gonna go through my second stream of the year, this time doing a live reading of the Carnelia books in Trails in the Sky first chapter. Hope you've all rested up, since my, Zenless Zone Zero stream yesterday. That took way longer than I would have wanted to, although it's also my fault for not thinking about splitting the stream into like 2 parts, but well, anyways, I'm done with the 2.5 story for Zenless at least, so yeah, that's all out of the way. I could move on to the next gacha game next week. But yeah, if anyone wants a last time what we did in Trails in the Sky first chapter, we beat the game. We beat the game. That's as much as I'm gonna say in regards to that. I'm just gonna jump right into reading the collectible book series for Trails in the Sky FC and first chapter. I didn't mean to switch characters there. Where are my books? Where are the books? There they are. Not the liberal news, Carnelia. We're gonna read all 11 chapters. Oh, hang on, I just realized I am in the way of the books. Hang on a moment. I'm slightly blocking off the corner there. Where would the good spot be for me? You know what? There we go. I can just chill at the top right corner for today. Yeah, this'll do. I mean, you guys won't see the... Actually, you know what? Hang on. There's like a perfectly good gap right over here. This is gonna be a little weird in regards to my confusion emote, but it's fine. It's fine. I'll just chill over on the right here. Yeah, because the question marks on my confusion emote will just be backwards like this. Oh, hang on. I think... Okay, yeah, my avatar's arms are also a little too high there. Hang on. Let's see. Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we'll go from here. We'll go from here. This works. Actually, now that I think about it, I should also move the chat box to... Wow, I really should have thought this through. Before I did today's stream, I didn't think all my UI elements would be in such inconvenient places today. Okay, there we go. There we go. Much better. Okay, yeah, you guys couldn't see from your end, but I did move the chat box from where I usually had it for the Trails in the Sky first chapter streams. Yeah, we might as well make good use of filling this gap where we're currently standing. But yes, we are going to start right off with... Actually, you know what? This isn't actually the first time I've read Carnelia in terms of making content out of it. I actually had some videos early on in this channel's lifespan where I actually did reading of the Carnelia books. Not just the Carnelia books, quite a few of the collectible books in the Trail series, although I did give up at some point. I think it was during the Dull Knight book, or was it Gambler Jack 2? I think it was Gambler Jack 2 where I kind of stopped doing it. I think I even stopped in the middle of the book series there because trying to get good takes was just taking a toll on me back then. And I was actually working during that time, so yeah, I just didn't have the time to or the will to finish those off. But here we are, doing a live reading of Carnelia now, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. Yeah, it seems like it'll be a quiet day today, so I'll just take my time. Carnelia, Chapter 1. The Imperial Chronicle 1. I stood before the revolving door, lightly tapping the heels of my boots against the pavement. Pulling up the collar of my coat and tucking my chin down, I glanced at my reflection in the curved glass. Short-cropped hair, a plain leather coat, and equally plain leather boots stared back at me. In truth, the boots were custom-made and reinforced with steel plates. Though no one would ever know at a glance, In truth, the boots were custom-made and reinforced with steel plates, though no one would ever know at a glance. An utterly ordinary appearance, something essential in my line of work. From the pewter-coloured morning mist came the rhythmic footsteps of passerby along the boulevard, as regular as the ticking of a clock. Occasionally, the cries of street vendors interrupted this flow, only to be soon swallowed by the melodic drums of monotony. You see, mornings in the Imperial capital are always grey. I snatched a magazine from a nearby vendor, tossing some mirror behind me as payment. The Imperial Chronicles, so familiar. Even the ink smudges on the page seemed to remain constant. Roughly flipping open the cover, my eye skimmed over the pages until I drew in a sharp breath. At the bottom of the society section, I spotted those words. My gaze was instantly drawn to them, frozen in place. Einzelnet. I stared at the name until the letters lost all meaning, becoming nothing more than smudges of darkness on a page of white. A few seconds of emptiness followed, then my eyes finally moved forward, continuing through the article. As I read on, memories began to replay themselves in my mind, taking me back to those fleeting days, just 3 years past when I first heard that name. The Imperial capital must have been just as grey then as it was today. A merely 22. I was younger then, more full of hope than recklessness. I checked my appearance in the boutique door as usual, then lightly stepped towards the Micht Imperial factory. Its owner, Micht, had arranged for me to pick up a new job. Micht was a dull, middle-aged man who ran a small workshop. I had been tinkering with orbits since I was a kid, and I was one of the few regulars at his shop. Passing through a damp alleyway and ducking under a rotting wooden door, I saw the dim glow of the orbments lamp at the entrance of his half-underground workshop. Micht first started giving me jobs during the turmoil of the 100-Day War. Back then, relations between Liberl and the Empire were at their worst, and import of orbments had almost completely stopped. Micht, teaming up with a cast of shady characters, got involved in orbment smuggling and roped me in as his accomplice, giving me a role as a courier. Being a teenager, with no connections or prospects to speak of, I jumped at the opportunity. Even after relations with the kingdom normalized, I continued with the work. Before long, I had become a courier specializing in stolen goods. The thrill of it all was intoxicating, and despite my better judgment, I had no intention of quitting. No other job paid like this one. No job I could get, anyway. Dressing inconspicuously, I hid goods inside my hat and trousers, repeatedly crossing the border into Liberl. My wallets grew thicker with each trip, but the need to change aliases often had led me to accumulate quite a few identities over the years. There was easygoing Phil, quick-handed Rooney, and cowardly Chris. I was all of them, and none of them. Yet, Micht always called me Toby. It was the alias I used for our first job, and it was the one I liked best. Hey, good afternoon, Kaylee. How are you doing today? Yeah, as you can see, I have moved the chat box. Oh, hang on. I am slightly blocking the chat box there. Hang on. Let's just shimmy you over to the right. Yeah, over the convenient gap in the books over here. Yeah, I had just gone through the first chapter of Carnelia. I don't think clearly today's stream is not going to go as long as it did for the Zenless one. Oh, yeah, this is going to be on the opposite spectrum. I think we might be done within, like, the next hour or so, even. Story must have been good. Oh my goodness, let's just say there were more complaints about how redundant the dialogue was. Seriously, those 8 hours of story could have been condensed down into arguably 5 or 6 hours. A lot of the same talking points ends up getting repeated over and over and over. Even sometimes during the same parts in the chapter. It was ridiculous. Yeah, it got to the point where me and Dazzledaz just wanted it to end. To be fair, I'm partially to blame for, doing the whole story in one go. But that's just how I prefer going through these gacha game stories, to be honest. Usually I dedicate like one day to reading. If there's a new update, I dedicate one day each to each of the gacha games, because sometimes these gacha game updates kind of overlap with each other. Hoyo dialogue, oh, don't get me started. Honestly, I think it was much better back during the Honkai Impact days. Although then again, that might just be my rose-tinted glasses doing some work there. Anyways, let me jump into Chapter 2 now. For Carnelia. Yo, Toby! Perfect timing. Mix called out to me, shifting around behind the corner. He placed the pastry he'd been eating on his lap and clapped his powdered, sugar-covered hands together, releasing a sweet aroma of baked apples and spice that wafted through the dim store. The goods just arrived, he added, twisting his upper body to pull something wrapped in old magazine paper from the shelf behind him. He quickly handed it over to me. What is it this time? I asked, already knowing it was pointless to inquire further. The usual spot in the kingdom, Mix replied, ignoring my question, as he spread out a set of train and airship tickets. Don't worry about the details, Toby. Just be your usual smart self. He sighed deeply before reaching down to grab another bear-shaped pastry. Before he could even lift it to his mouth, I was already out the door. The old paper parcel bounced lightly inside my bag, and feeling it jostle by my side, I realized that whatever it was probably stolen. Not that it bothered me. Carrying unknown items was just part of the job, and I never had any trouble before. Thanks to my work, my knowledge and skill with orbments and orbal arts had become quite advanced. So when I noticed some men looking at me suspiciously at the station, I didn't feel overly nervous. The platform was crowded with passengers waiting for the train bound for the kingdom. The benches were full, leaving me no choice but to stand near the entrance. As I shifted my bag around, I spotted 2 men among the crowd. They stood in front of the ticket gate, right on the spot where the Imperial crest, a horse's head, was depicted on the tiled floor. They spoke in hushed tones. Soon another man joined them. They were hardly inconspicuous, especially large and sporting similar hairstyles. The trio stood out even in the bustling station. I turned my gaze away from them, adjusted my grip on the bag, and let my fingertips brush up against the orbment in my pocket. A woman's voice announced the train's arrival, cutting through the tension in the air. The distant, low hum of the orbal engine pressed down upon my shoulders. It'll be fine, I whispered softly to myself. Oh, yeah, I was whispering. It'll be fine, I whispered softly to myself. With a loud screech of brakes, the gleaming black iron of mass slid down the tracks. I could feel the vibrations in the air as the orbal engine reversed thrust. Swept along with the surge of passengers leaving the waiting area, I was carried toward the passenger car door. As I passed the conductor, I briefly glanced toward the ticket gate. The men from earlier had vanished. Only the tiled depiction of the horse remained, leering down at my flushed face as I stepped forward into the unknown. Carnelia Chapter 3, Sister. The train sped through the mist as though it were flying, the water droplets splashing against the window glass, forming streaks that wriggled endlessly in place. Resting my forehead against the cool surface, I rubbed 2 tickets together between my fingers. From the Imperial capital, the railway would take me far south to a border city, where I would transfer to an airship bound for the kingdom. Both tickets were for first-class seats. The passenger car was nearly full, yet no one sat beside me. Perhaps Mick had deliberately arranged it that way, suggesting this was likely a big score for him too. "Are you heading to the kingdom?" Startled, I raised my head. A lone woman stood in the aisle. She was in her mid-30s and wore a fur coat, fastened with 3 buckles. Light brown hair barely reached her shoulders, and her eyes mirrored that same hue. "May I?" she asked politely, bending her knees slightly as she gestured to the empty seat beside me. "The smoke back there is absolutely terrible," she murmured, glancing toward the rear, where a dank purple haze lingered. I nodded and moved my bag closer to the window. She thanked me and sat down. Soon she began chatting eagerly, and I played along, pretending I was traveling to the kingdom on orbment-related business. She shared that she was involved in church charity work and had business in the border town. "They call me sister, actually," she said, crossing her black leather boot-clad legs. She chuckled softly, adding, "It's just a nickname, though." Sister Carnelia. That's what they called her. Sister Carnelia and I continued chatting casually for some time. As the sun began to fade in the west, orange rays swept across the car, illuminating the fluttering groves outside. Bathed in the evening glow, her brown eyes took on a reddish hue, and I found myself wondering if her nickname had something to do with the rich crimson color of Carnelia. Eventually, the train began to slow, and she returned to her seat to gather her belongings. Out of habit, I checked my bag and the orbment I used for arts. Both the parchment-wrapped package and the orbment were secured snugly to my waist by a chain. A woman's voice announced our on-time arrival and mentioned drizzly weather at our destination. Several passengers sighed in disappointment. Soon, raindrops began to splatter against the window, and the dark silhouette of the town quickly drew to a close. The station's signal lights scattered angular reflections through the droplets, sending a foreboding chill down my spine. A metallic screech filled the air, accompanied by the jolt of the orbital engine's reversing thrust. An announcement echoed, reminding passengers to watch their belongings, and slowly, people began rising from their seats. I stood up as well, gripping my bag tightly, my eyes following the station attendant as he waved a signal flag through the train. In the aisle, I encountered Sister Carnelia again. As I stepped back to let her pass, she suddenly stumbled, falling toward me and grabbing my shoulder to steady herself. She gave me an embarrassed smile before stepping aside. I nodded slightly and moved forward into the aisle, yet, almost immediately, Carnelia followed closely behind me. A swell of unease bubbled within me. My right hand instinctively slipped into my pocket, searching for the orbment, but the familiar touch of cold metallic brass was gone. Suddenly, a powerful force twisted my wrist upward. A sharp metallic click rang through the air, followed by a sharp pinch in my back, near my kidneys. "I've got what you're looking for right here, Toby," Sister Carnelia whispered softly behind my ear. "Don't move or make a fuss. No sense in unnecessary bloodshed here, right?" She shifted her grip slightly on my wrist, and colorless sparks exploded behind my eyes. Carnelia, Chapter 4, Human Bullets. Sister Carnelia spoke gently, yet my right hand throbbed with an intense pain. "You'll behave yourself, won't you, Toby?" Tears streamed uncontrollably down my face. Genuine sobs, not single tears. I nodded vigorously, and immediately, the pressure on my wrist eased, the pain vanishing in an instant. "Don't misunderstand, Toby. I'm your guardian, sent by the goddess Aidios," she whispered into my ear, instructing me to look out the window. The way she emphasized the B in Toby sent a strange shiver down my spine. Passengers began slowly filling out of the train. Nudged forward by Carnelia, I peered out onto the platform. At the foot of the stairs leading to the main gate stood the trio I'd seen at the Imperial capital station. "Looks like they're giving you quite the welcome," she chuckled softly under her breath. "Give me back my ordnance!" I pleaded, twisting my neck to try and face her, yet Carnelia offered no reply. Attendants greeted us on either side as we stepped onto the dull grey platform. "Damn it, you idiots! How can you not see what's happening to me?" Squinting against the misty train spraying into my eyes, I slowly descended the wet stairs, half a step at a time. From behind, Carnelia effortlessly matched my pace. My welcoming party waited just below, and I wondered if she merely planned to hand me over to these people. As the trio's faces grew nearer, heat gathered in my left hand, the one gripping the bag. Halfway down the stairs, Carnelia suddenly spoke. "Toby, look down." Obediently, I lowered my gaze to the rain-soaked tips of my boots. Just as I exhaled, Carnelia shoved me forcefully. I watched as little droplets flung from my boots towards the sky. My body came crashing backward into the group at the bottom of the stairs. I felt my ribs crunch painfully before snapping back into place. Tumbling between the two military-looking men, I knocked them down and plunged into a puddle. The passengers' screams rang out like screeching brakes of the train. As the world spun around me, I lay on the cold, tiled ground, my eyes darting to my left hand. My fingers still gripped the bag tightly. Trying to pull myself from the ground, I slipped and landed face first, my chin slamming against the hard surface. Frantically looking around, I saw no sign of the men from before. Only Sister Carnelia remained visible on the platform above, casually holding a man slung over her shoulder like a sack of grain. Turning toward the train, she tossed him onto the tracks without hesitation. Finally, I managed to push myself onto one knee, the world still spinning around me. Sister Carnelia's boots approached, and she took me by the hand. At first, I didn't notice the strange sensation that ran through me as she gripped me. "Let's go, Toby." Pulling me onto my feet, we soon broke into a full sprint. The crowd of onlookers parted noisily to let us through. My bag swung loosely from my left arm, tapping rhythmically against my thigh. Only after passing through the ticket gate did Sister Carnelia release my hand, which was accompanied by a tearing sound. It was then I noticed her hands were stained red with blood. Still running, I glanced back towards the platform. The three who had come to confront me were nowhere to be found. Carnelia, Chapter 5, Messenger of Repose. I stared blankly at the butter slowly melting atop the cold pancakes. Picking up my fork, I gently prodded at it before flipping it over and smearing it around. The longer I did this, the less interested I became in what was on my plate. Above me, the lamps buzzed softly, casting a flickering amber glow. Outside, the rain showed no signs of stopping. Leaning close to the glass, I peered through the watery veil streaming down the window, trying to make out the dim street beyond. The station should have been at the end of the road, but from this tavern, it was obscured behind a number of buildings, offering no clear view of the platform. "You don't need to worry," Sister Carnelia said, returning as she wiped her hands with a pristine white handkerchief. "They won't be following us anytime soon." She then spread the square piece of cloth neatly across her lap like a napkin. Watching the graceful movement of her fingertips, the metallic scent of blood returned viscerally to my nostrils. "How can you be so sure?" "It's how they operate," she replied firmly. A server approached and noisily placed a plate in front of her. Sister Carnelia pulled the porcelain dish closer, eyeing the freshly grilled slab of meat before lightly sucking the sauce from her fingertips. I tossed my fork down and leaned heavily back in my chair. Outside the window, the town gradually darkened into shades of ever-deepening blue. By the time Sister Carnelia had finished her steak, night had completely descended upon the city. "How do you know they won't come after us?" I asked once more. Carnelia wiped her plate clean with a piece of dark bread. "It's their formation. 3 men per unit," she began, then added as an afterthought, "By them, I mean the Jaeger Corps." My mind immediately flashed back to the men I'd seen at the station. The Jaeger Corps, an honorary title given to certain mercenary groups. As Mick had told me about them once, they followed Mira, and wherever Mira flowed, they would work. His words echoed in my mind. "They're warmongers. Borders don't matter to them. Don't you ever get involved with guys like that." Unconsciously, I tapped my foot against my bag to reassure myself it was still there. "It's simple," Sister Carnelia said, reaching for her dessert. "You're carrying something dangerous, Toby, and someone hired the Jaeger Corps to eliminate you." "So they're not after me, and it's the package they want?" I asked nervously. "It's all the same to them," Carnelia said, finishing her tea in one swift gulp. "They'll kill the owner before ever checking the contents. You slaughter the cow before grilling the steak, don't you?" As she spoke, she sliced into an apple pie with a knife still drizzled with animal fat. Powdered sugar danced up from her dish and into the golden light of the lamps, and I felt a sharp pain pierce my stomach. I couldn't help but wonder how Mick was doing. My restless thoughts halted as I noticed Sister Carnelia's hand freeze. She stared into the darkness with the intensity of a hunting dog, then abruptly tossed something shiny onto the table and stood up. It was my orbment. "Where are you going?" Ignoring my question, Sister Carnelia swiftly fastened her coat buckles. "You have good taste, Toby," she remarked, placing one foot at a time on her chair to tighten her bootlaces. "If you can operate that orbment, you're quite impressive. You'd make a decent bracer." "I asked you where you're going," I repeated impatiently. "Don't worry," she replied calmly. "We'll meet again tomorrow morning." With those parting words, she disappeared through the entrance to the washroom. Almost immediately after, 2 men entered the establishment. They walked straight toward me, stopping at my table. One of them, bearing a shining emblem on his chest, spoke without even looking at me. "We're from the Bracer Guild. Sorry to interrupt your meal, but you're coming with us." It's crazy how this is for a book in a video game, I know, right? Carnelia is easily one of my favorite Trails books. Honestly, all of them are pretty good. I don't think there's a single one where I actively dislike for one reason or another. It kind of helps that the collectible books tend to be related to actual characters within the Trails world. These are they're actual events that have happened, although partially embellished. Like this one right here. I mean, some of you folks may have seen on the thumbnail that I threw in 2 silhouettes there. Yeah, those just happen to be the 2 characters that are involved with Carnelia here. Alright, let me just catch my breath real quick and take a sip of my drink before I continue on. Oh, okay, I think I made my coffee a little too bitter today, goodness me. No, but that definitely had some kick in it. Whew. Okay. Carnelia, Chapter 6, Situation Assessment. On the table lay my orbment, my empty bag, and the old parchment wrapped parcel. The Bracer's eyes shifted repeatedly between my face and the items scattered before him, as if he were comparing them. He stroked his chin thoughtfully, deliberately showing off the heavy leathered gauntlet on his right hand. They had brought me to the 2nd floor of an inn and tavern. After carefully examining the layout, the Bracers led me to a room at the far end of the hall. Apparently, there was no guild branch nearby. The thinner of the two sat down in front of me first. I asked their names but quickly forgot which one was Clay and which one was Pavel. After they searched me, the one with the gauntlet, either Pavel or Clay, returned and whispered something to his partner. It seemed they hadn't found the woman after all. Their interest seemed entirely focused on Sister Carnelia and the Jaegers. In response to their questions, I told them everything Carnelia had said on the train. Then, playing for the victim, I asked them about her in return, though I did consider myself a victim. The woman's name is Selnet. Ein Selnet, the thinner one said, reading from his notebook. She's a former Jaeger, but her current affiliation and activities are unknown. She's certainly not someone an upstanding citizen should associate with, the gauntlet man remarked pompously, reaching for the parchment-wrapped parcel. Watching me carefully, he unfolded the parcel in the center of the table. Inside was a lump of metal covered in clay. I was delivering it to a research facility, I lied smoothly, listing addresses of non-existent clients. The Bracers dutifully recorded every word. Ultimately, I was to stay at the same inn as the Bracers. They planned to escort me to the guild branch the next day to file a report about the incident at the station. That was fine by me. All I wanted was to survive the night. I woke at sunrise, breathing a sigh of relief to see the morning sun. The Bracers were not in the room, though I could hear the voices from the hallways. As I slipped my arm into my jacket, a sharp pain in my right elbow reminded me of Sister Carnelia. Suddenly, overcome by an indescribable anxiety, I hurriedly began adjusting my orbment. Opening the back cover, I carefully picked up the quartz with an oil-treated deerskin cloth. It took less than 5 minutes to rearrange the quartz into different slots. Switching my focus to lighter arts, I tightened each screw back into place. My nerves finally settled, and I lay back down on the bed. Just then, a tall woman, apparently an inn servant, entered carrying hot water for washing. She placed the steaming basin heavily onto the table, and silently began stripping the sheets from the bed. Forced out of bed, I reluctantly approached the basin. At that moment, two shadows swiftly passed by the open door. "They're here," I heard myself whisper. With remarkable calmness, I closed the door, and locked it, and stood against the wall, still clutching a bar of soap. On the other side of the earthen wall, shouts erupted simultaneously, with the sound of flesh and bone colliding. I grasped the orbment I had just adjusted, pulling the chain at my waist. 2 bracers and 2 attackers, myself included. We had the advantage in terms of numbers. As I turned toward the door, I heard myself mutter again from somewhere far away. 2? The sister had said 1 unit always considered the 3 people. Then where was the 3rd? Before I could finish the thought, something wrapped around my neck, yanking me backward before I could cry out. Then, everything went dark. From the corner of my blurred vision, I saw the woman gripping the sheets with bloodshot eyes. The same one who had brought the basin earlier. She collapsed on the floor. I activated my orbment and unleashed an art. Compressed air sliced past my thigh, folding the woman in half and hurling her toward the window. White linen and fresh blood swirled in the wake of the gusting wind. I took VA classes once, and good advice I got was that strong coffee was bad for vocal range, unless you're deliberately going for a gravelly voice. Okay, noted. Yeah, I think I've seen that before. It's also good to what is it? Make sure your throat's hydrated too. Make sure you have some water on hand. But anyways, I'm not a professional here, Kaylee. You know what? Yeah, advice noted. Carnelia, Chapter 7. Bound for Aidios. I inhaled sharply, the sound like a draft whistling through a crack. With my hand still clutching the orbment, I loosened the sheets that were digging into my neck. Turning my head aside, saliva spilled from my mouth. Behind me, something moved with a heavy thud. The female Jaeger sprang up like a clockwork doll. Even though I had struck her squarely in the stomach with my art, she moved as if nothing had happened. Instinctively, I stepped back, and a sound like splintering wood echoed near my shoulder. In the next instant, Sister Carnelia burst into the room, fragments of the now shattered door scattering in her wake. Her arm snapped like a whip, striking the female Jaeger's neck as she passed. The woman spun through the air, crashing headfirst onto the floor. Sister Carnelia leapt gracefully, knees tucked high like a dancer, and drove her boot heel into the fallen woman's throat. She glanced at me, beckoning briefly, then leapt casually out the window to the ground below, as easily as stepping off a stool. Grabbing my bag, I pulled it close to my chest and followed after her. Sister Carnelia caught me as she waited below, and together we dashed into the early morning streets. The whistle of the first train echoed sharply in our ears. Sister Carnelia handed me a ticket, and as I reached to take it, I finally tossed aside the bar of soap I had been tightly gripping all this time. The train car was filled with the haze of tobacco smoke, mingling with the scent of freshly printed magazines and the sound of clearing throats. I felt terribly uneasy. Boarding the train bound for the Imperial capital while clutching my bag felt strangely surreal. "It's just like an orbment," Carnelia said, pressing a white handkerchief to my leg, which had been torn open by the art. She placed a folded magazine on her knee and tapped it lightly with her finger. It was the Imperial Chronicle, freshly published that morning. A brief article reported that the suspicious death of a workshop owner in the Imperial capital, and, for the first time, I learned how old Micht was. "We just barely made it," Sister Carnelia said, slipping the magazine into her coat pocket. "5 more minutes in that place, Toby, and you'd have been on your way to meet Aidios, too." I don't understand," I said, shaking my head. I simultaneously pictured Mick's cold body behind the counter, and the lump of metal wrapped in scrap paper. What exactly was this thing, and why was I risking my life for it? "It's an artifact," she replied, to which I snorted dismissively. "An ancient relic? I've smuggled plenty of those before." Artifacts were remnants of ancient civilizations, mysterious devices resembling orbments. They were popular among nobles as antiques, and among the stolen goods I'd smuggled, there were many that were deemed relics. An announcement of our arrival echoed through the train, and Sister Carnelia again crossed her legs. "The Jaegers are after it, and the church sent me. I'm here to protect both you and keep the artifacts from falling into their hands." I stared down anxiously at the bag resting at my feet as the train quietly slowed. Carnelia Chapter 8, Imperial Capital Depths. We moved behind the seats, concealing ourselves behind the backs of passengers. Every brush of the bag against my knee heightened my awareness of the relic's presence, as if I had accidentally touched another person. Inside that cheap cloth tote was an ancient relic that the Jaegers were desperately pursuing. "Micht, you old fool! This was way too much for us to handle!" I closed my eyes and called out to Carnelia. "Are we heading straight to the church once we get off?" "Yes, that's the plan," she answered, her gaze casually drifting toward the window. "It's the only way you'll survive." The morning station was bustling with arriving trains and packed with passengers. The sky hung in its usual pale grey, and everyone stood motionlessly on the platform. Collars turned up, huddled together like waterfowl on a winter mudflat. "No pushing me down the stairs this time, got it?" I muttered. "Not this time," she replied with a hint of mischief. "Though if there were more of you, I'd seriously consider it." Apparently, the number of people awaiting our arrival had significantly increased. "I don't like our odds." I don't like our odds," she whispered into my ear. "We can't leave through the ticket gate." We stepped out of line, pushed open the door opposite the platform, and jumped down onto the railroad tracks. The frigid wind of the Imperial capital blew unhindered along the tracks. We slipped between train cars and pressed ourselves into the shadows of a large freight car. On the cargo platform, workers busily unloaded containers. For a smuggler, sneaking in and out of a station building was child's play. I showed my ticket and approached one of the workers, spinning my usual tale about a celebrity and their manager. Midway through my explanation, I gestured toward the sister. She struck a graceful pose, flashing a seductive smile. Though she claimed to be an opera singer, she looked more like a barroom diva. Still, the workers gladly let us past. "You've got real talent, Toby," she said as we hurried through the warehouse district. "You should seriously consider a career change." "Again with the bracer stuff?" I joked. Expecting her to dismiss the idea, I turned the question back on her. If you're so in love with the idea of being a bracer, why don't you become one?" We stopped in front of a wire fence at the edge of the district. "Don't be ridiculous," she laughed, shifting aside the drainage cover. "They'd shoot me dead in the moment I stepped foot in the guild." Below, we entered a winding stone tunnel that stretched endlessly beneath the Imperial capital. As we crawled forward, faint beams of light filtered down from the street gutters above, illuminating our path like scattered street lamps. People's shoes passed right above our noses, yet no one noticed us. I gazed longingly at the world above, just beyond the thin paving stones. Jaegers, artifacts, sudden and senseless death. Things I'd never even considered now seemed to be closing in around me. Eventually, the seemingly endless tunnel opened into a high-ceilinged, stone-built sewer. "We'll take this route to get close to the cathedral," Sister Carnelia said, raising an eyebrow and pointing upward. "It should be safer than going above ground." "But what if they attack the church?" I asked, the sound of splashing water echoing from somewhere afar. Carnelia grabbed my hand and stepped forward into the consuming darkness. "Don't worry, Toby," she said reassuringly. "Faith isn't the only thing protecting the church." Carnelia, Chapter 9. Carnelia. The flickering of the dying orbal lamp cast its thin streaks of light across the filthy water. Sister Carnelia dashed past, leaving only the sound of rushing air in her wake. Breathless, I chased after her shadow as it stretched diagonally into the distant darkness. Without slowing down, Carnelia and I ran across the moss-covered stone pavement, heading for the Septian Church Cathedral. Above ground, the distance from the railway station to the cathedral spanned about 3 city blocks. If we could climb up through the drainage channel beyond the water level control gate, we'd emerge in the plaza in front of the cathedral. In the distance, another orbal lamp flickered into view. Sister Carnelia glanced back at me and extended her right arm, signaling that we would turn a right at the next corner. She then rolled her shoulders, preparing for what? Preparing. For what? I didn't know. Perhaps Sister Carnelia already saw what awaited us. Beneath the flickering glow, her figure vanished around the corner. 1, 2, 3. 3 dull thuds echoed rapidly, followed by something splashing into the water. As I rounded the corner, 2 men sprawled awkwardly on the ground came into view, forcing me to instinctively dodge to the side of the path. Ahead of me, Carnelia continued running at her usual pace, as if nothing had happened. "It's Carnelia!" A furious shout erupted from behind, causing me to turn around. One of the men lying on the ground opened his bloodied mouth and screamed, "Carnelia's here!" Sister didn't even glance back. "Looks like they're serious," she said, her eyes fixed on an empty point in the air. "Were those men back there your former comrades?" Carnelia turned her reddish-brown eyes towards me. I nodded, deciding not to press the matter. I simply kept moving forward, watching the shadows at my feet shift beneath the ordnance lamp's glow. "Do you remember the woman I fought at the inn?" Carnelia suddenly asked. "The reason I quit being a mercenary was because I didn't want to die like that." I glanced up at her profile. I didn't want to disappear like that," Sister repeated softly. "So if I'm going to die anyway, I want to fight for something. Leave proof that I lived." Feeling an indescribable sense of dread, I continued running alongside her. Suddenly, between my breaths, I thought I heard a faint splash behind us and quickly turned around. "Toby, you noticed it too, didn't you?" She gradually slowed her pace, eventually coming to a halt. Their reinforcements are catching up. We reached an intersection where two waterways crossed. Across the wide, foul-smelling current, the dimly lit gate was visible. Leaning against the damp brick wall, I paused to catch my breath. "They're probably waiting to ambush us," she said, glancing at the opposite bank. Then she cast a wary glance behind us. "But we don't have time for a detour." She inhaled deeply 2 or 3 times, her breaths sharp and controlled. With sweaty palms, I grasped my orbment tightly and secured my bag strap around my wrist. After quickly checking her shoes as usual, she straightened her posture. Holding our breath, we plunged headlong into the dark, sticky currents. Carnelia, Chapter 10, Activation. Sister Carnelia dashed toward the opposite bank, gliding swiftly over the water and leaving dark spray in her wake. In an instant, she was far ahead of me. From the distant gates, flashes of arts magic tore through the air in rapid succession, but none reached her. Instead, they blasted apart the sludge at the bottom of the waterway, sending shockwaves pounding against my body. Dodging the last strike with a graceful leap, Sister landed on the shore at terrifying speed. Vaulting over the sandbag wall, she whipped her arms around fluidly, collapsing the Jaegers in one fell strike. Her arms spun swiftly like windmills, faster than any blade, striking from unimaginable angles. Her hands pierced throats, severed arteries, and withdrew just as quickly. By the time I reached the stone pavement, she stood alone, the only figure still on her feet. "Up ahead. Climb the ladder to reach the cathedral," Carnelia said. She waved her hand, flinging off droplets of blood like a child who had dirtied herself but had forgotten her handkerchief, her eyes sparkling in the lingering thrill of battle. "Reinforcements are coming. Let's hurry." The low sound of footsteps splashing through the water was already close enough to hear clearly. Stepping over the bodies of the fallen Jaegers, we headed toward the dried-up canal. Bracing myself against the wet stones, I ducked beneath the half-open sluice gate. As a droplet splashed on the back of my neck, I paused, noticing a whirring sound above me, the unmistakable noise of an orbment powering arts. "Toby!" A flash of white filled my vision. I thought I heard Carnelia's voice, yet at the same moment I felt a hand reach out from somewhere, grabbing my shoulder and yanking me backward. I was pulled clear just as the magic exploded against the stones. The deafening roar pummeled my entire body as I crashed to the ground, landing hard on my back. I flipped over onto my stomach, choking on filthy water as I raised my head. Through the swirling dust I saw the sluice gate, now billowing thick clouds of debris. Like something from a nightmare, Jaegers burst forth from within, blades gleaming in their hands. I struggled in the mud, watching helplessly as their faces drew nearer, leaping forward to strike me down. Instinctively, I rolled to my side, narrowly evading a sword slash, then blocked the next strike with my bag. The fabric tore silently, sending the wrapped bundle of old paper tumbling onto the stones. My fingers desperately reached out for my orbment, but felt only useless chains. One mercenary fixed his eyes on my throat, raising his long sword high. Suddenly, a shadow appeared behind him. Carnelia. Her hand moved effortlessly, and the man vanished, leaving only his sword clattering to the ground. With a sharp ringing sound, she dropped to one knee. "I'm sorry, Toby," she murmured, eyes downcast as trails of blood ran down her cheeks. "Perhaps the goddess calls for you too," she said softly, rising once more. Her fluttering coat was torn to shreds, damaged from the arts attacks earlier. She must have shielded me from it. Frothy red blood seeped from her chest. Picking up the fallen artifact from the ground, I peeled away the soaked paper and grasped the cold metal tightly against my orbment. The Jaegers no longer advanced. Instead, they stood shoulder to shoulder, blades drawn, blocking the path to the gate. As Sister Carnelia let out a wordless battle cry, I activated my orbment. Just as I unleashed my art, a scorching blade grazed my cheek. Immediately, I was shoved aside, falling forward onto the ground. Above me, I saw Sister Carnelia's back. Her right arm fell limp, hanging uselessly from her shoulder. She tilted her head downward slightly and collapsed before me, sliding gently to the ground. I caught her in my arms, blasting away an attack Jaeger with an art. But I knew that was the end. Countless swords glared at us menacingly. Raising my right hand, still gripping the activated orbment, I shielded us the best as I could. The blade sliced through the air, and I closed my eyes, awaiting the blow. And yet, behind the darkness of my eyelids, an endless expanse of white began to unfold. Carnelia, Final Chapter, Imperial Chronicle 2. Swallowed by a world of white, I was suddenly spat on solid ground, tumbling downward. Warm earth-scented sunlight met my fingertips. Heaven's floor felt like cobblestones beneath my hands. As I groped around, my fingers brushed against coarse hair. It seemed Sister Carnelia had also joined me on this journey to Aidios. A warm feeling welled deep within my chest, and I sprawled out, letting my body relax. It was then I sensed movement around me. Someone appeared to be peering closely at my face. As my vision adjusted, I saw a young girl smiling gently. He's far too young to be the goddess Aidios. At that moment, a bell chimed overhead, sounding exactly like the cathedral's hourly ring. Confused, I sat up, finally awakening from my dream. Anxiously glancing around like a startled pigeon, I noticed curious onlookers, their eyes gathered on me, a silent weight pressing in from all sides. Familiar streets stretched before me, familiar sounds echoing in the distance, and familiar scents riding the breeze. There could be no mistake. I stood once again in the plaza before the cathedral, at the heart of the Imperial capital. I opened my right hand and looked down at the lump of metal Mick placed in my care. On the artifact, golden threads of light coiled across its surface, like veins pulsing with a quiet ancient life. I remembered the sister's words. It's alive. As the glow slowly dimmed, I held it tighter. Leaning against each other for support, we walked toward the towering cathedral. Overhead, the stained glass wings of the goddess shimmered in the sun, stretched wide in silent vigil. What happened next unfolded with mechanical precision. The blood-stained relic, the very artifact Sister Carnelia had risked everything to protect, was handed over to His Eminence, the Cardinal, who received us at the cathedral gates. Without a word, he turned and disappeared with it behind massive sealed doors. Inside, the Grand Hall filled quickly. Representatives of the Imperial family, powerful nobles, and high-ranking officers of the Imperial army gathered. Voices hushed, movements sharp, as they launched into ceaseless negotiations. In the haze of political scheming, even the seasoned mediators dispatched by the Gracer Guild found themselves worn thin. Through it all, I remained at Sister Carnelia's side. She lay on the church pew, her breath shallow, as the real sisters gently removed her coat and carefully cut away the blood-soaked garments clinging to her body. Beneath them, to everyone's surprise, was chainmail hidden under her robes. The discovery left the sisters in disbelief. By the next day, the noble who had orchestrated the Jaeger attack finally conceded. He agreed to a settlement in exchange for an estate, and the artifact was placed under the protection of the church. As for me, I was handed a bag of heavy hush money, and promptly sent off to the Republic, an elegant way of sweeping me aside. The braces assigned to escort me were none other than Pavel and Clay. Just before our departure, without explanation, they brought me to her. She was awake. We spoke for only a few moments, simple words between us. But as I turned to leave, she reached out silently and offered me her hand. Ayn. My name is Ayn. I clasped her pale hand, unblemished by the world, with quiet resolve. 3 years have passed since that moment, and now today, Her name stares back at me from the pages of the Imperial Chronicle. Zenless. A short article follows. Early yesterday morning, found dead under mysterious circumstances in the Imperial capital. The body bore numerous external injuries. During her lifetime, the deceased was involved in charitable activities through the Septian Church, saving countless lives across the land. As I reached the final line, an image pierced my thoughts. Her lying motionless in the street, her blood-streaked face so hauntingly serene. And despite everything, despite the horror, she wore a faint smile. I tightly rolled up the magazine and gently touched the bracer emblem gleaming on my chest. Nearly 2 years have passed since I'd followed Sister's advice and chosen this path. At last, I grew comfortable using my real name. Toby. Sister's soft whisper echoed gently in my ears. But I was no longer Toby. Not really. I pressed my forehead against the cold, fogged-up window. In my memories, Sister's eyes sparkled like Carnelia gems, her coat fluttering gracefully as she vanished into the shadows. Slowly, I opened my eyes and stared out the window. Outside, the lights of the Imperial capital melted into a hazy red blur, gradually fading into the pale white mist. And that is the end of Carnelia. No, I knew it'd only take us about an hour or so, although technically less if we cut out the intro part of today's stream. But yeah. Goodness me, yeah, this just reminds me of how good the Trails books are, man. Like, this is the first of the collectible book series in the Trails games. Although technically, if you take the whole The Legend of Heroes games as a whole, this isn't actually the first collectible book series. Even the ones in the Gagharv trilogy are pretty good as well. Although, I'd say they aren't as memorable, if anything. Speaking of like the Gagharv trilogy books, there is one of them that is available in Trails in the Sky SC, I believe. It's available in some of the later Trails games too, even though that particular book actually has no bearing on any of the Trails characters. Yeah, it's been nice reading this book again. I might do a remake. Well, yeah, a remake of my old readings of Carnelia from years ago. When was the last time I did the reading of this book? Hang on. Let me go back to my channel. Damn, I did it all the way back in 2021. Holy. Really? It's been 5 years since I read... since I did my my readings of that on this channel. Wow. They're still up there, by the way. I know every now and again those videos get views, and I've gotten thanks for doing basically an audio reading of them. So yeah, maybe I'll do it again, and get to doing the other Trails books as well. Actually, do every single one of them, because I do like. I did like reading the Trails books back then, and I do enjoy right now. Unlike back then, where I was tired of continuing the my Trails book reading journey. I think I'll have the energy now that I'm mostly focused on doing video content for this year. Although I say that, but this month is going to be packed stream wise, since I've got gacha games to play. Honestly, I could probably just cancel them, but yeah, this is just my poor planning in action there. Yeah, I think I'll just leave this whole stream as just the Carnelia books. The liberal news we went over during when they're relevant anyway. Don't need to do those again. We did read some of the other miscellaneous books here when they first came by. And yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, right now I'm on my, what is it, my New Game Plus 50 playthrough of this game. And so far, some fights have been more challenging, some fights have been easier because it's New Game Plus, even though the enemy levels have been increased by 50. So there's, level-wise, we're actually on par with everyone. Oh yeah, and I actually took the time to get everyone in different outfits this time, since I'm not streaming the game right now. Was a cozy stream? It is, and it's much shorter than my stream yesterday too. Oh, hang on, I should probably set back my avatar here. Hang on. Let's just travel over, flip horizontally. There we go. There we go. And we'll move the chat back where it was before. Right over to the left side. And that'll do. Actually, yeah, as for where I am now in my New Game Plus run, I'm not actually, what is it, right here? I'm actually at the point where we're about to rescue the Queen. Oh, hang on, that's the wrong save. Hang on, where was my... Oh, crap, I didn't... Where the heck is my save right in front of the... Okay, you know what, never mind. Why did I just stop in front of this monster chest? Okay, this is bizarre, but... Yeah, I've got everyone, aside from Tita and Agate right now, in their different outfits. Chloe in her princess attire is quite fun to see in combat, especially with how her skirt ends up flaring up in a cool way during some of her actions. Princess Joshua. Unfortunately, Princess Joshua isn't an outfit. It is not an option, unfortunately. Same with the maid outfit. Like, it's such a missed opportunity. Yeah, yeah, I've got Estelle in the Crimson Knight outfit. Yeah, Estelle gets her maid outfit. But no, Joshua doesn't. Unfortunately. As funny as that would be. Yeah, I definitely prefer Chloe in her princess outfit there. Yeah, unfortunately the guys don't actually have that many options compared to the girls. Like, it's either the alt coloring or the hot spring attire. Honestly, I like the alt coloring Falcom have given Joshua here, because it just makes me think of Adol from the East games. Adol if he was a dual wielder instead. And far more angsty. Yeah, yeah, we'll just keep the stream short for today. Nice and cozy, far more digestible. And yeah, thanks for coming, everyone who's dropped by today. By the time, yeah, once this stream ends and the VOD has finished compiling itself, for whatever the term was, yeah, you'll be able to listen to me read the previous chapters as well. As for the rest of the plans this week, we are going to start Trails Beyond the Horizon tomorrow. We'll be playing through the demo, which, as far as I've been told numerous times, like from Richard, for example, and from what I've read online, it's only the prologue, and thankfully it should be shorter than, way shorter than Trails in the Sky First Chapter's prologue, so we should be done in about 4 or 5 hour-ish. Yeah, 4 or 5 hours-ish long. So lengthwise, in the middle point between today's stream and the Zenless stream. And honestly, I could use some time to catch up with some of my editing backlog that the Zenless stream kind of pulled me away from. So yeah, I'm quite close to doing the what was it again? The Lawrence fights in New Game Plus, which apparently is actually far tougher. with New Game Plus 50. And I'll be the judge of that. We shall see. We shall see. But yeah, that'll be it for today. Oh yeah, but the plans for next week too. Hang on. So, next sketch game I'll be playing will be Arc Knights. Not Arc Knights Enfield, just normal Arc Knights, the tower defense one. Yeah, basically just to warm myself up for Arc Knights Enfield. And it's been a while since I streamed Arc Knights, actually, now that I think about it. I threw it on the Friday poll winners quite a few times in last year, but it always ends up losing out. But yeah, this time I'm actually playing it. No polls needed. We've still got 2 more Trails in the Sky first chapter streams to do. The NPC roundup streams, where we'll just be going around the NPC dialogue for the Grand Soul region. I'll be splitting that I split that into 2 streams because the Grand Soul and, well, the final chapter as a whole is massive, and it would take me at least that much. Okay, to be fair, I could probably do it all in one stream, but I'd rather not, if anything, because that's a lot of dialogue for me to voice over. And yeah, we'll be continuing Trails Beyond the Horizon as well when the game officially releases. So we'll be continuing from Chapter 1 next week. So yeah, just keep an eye out on which days those will be on. At the very least, Trails Beyond the Horizon I think will be at least on Friday or Saturday next week. Yeah, I think I'll do it the day after release, just because of how my starting streams for the Daybreak games end up going. Well, at least the first Daybreak game, where I was expecting it to release on the day I was going to stream it, but it didn't release until like much later. But yeah, that's all. That's the plans for this coming up. So I'll leave you guys to it. Take care of yourselves and have a wonderful evening. Bye.